Welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with Coach Red, where we bring you all the news, stories, takes, and opinions about your favorite teams from the Pacific Northwest, from the good to the bad to the Mariners.
Something Mariners, man.
They made a move.
I don't know.
They made a move. The Isaiah Campbell, former competitive balance pick at the end of the second round, starter turned reliever, gets traded to the Boston Red Sox for Luis Urias. And it's a guy that was a highly touted prospect, a guy that has some positional flexibility. Sounds like a lot of guys that are already on the Mariners, but he does have a former high prospect pedigree, which you've seen Dipoto over the years target with the likes of J.P. Crawford and Jared Kelenic. So hoping for a little bit of a bounce back there.
He's played in the bigs before.
He has. He's been a little bit injured.
Yeah.
But we are going to be talking about the Seahawks today after a frustrating loss against the Rams. But before we do that, I want to throw a big shout out to the kid, Ken Griffey Jr. Happy birthday to you from us over at Kicking It with Coach Red.
The GOAT.
But before we get too far into that, why don't I tell you a little bit about us? If you're looking for a guy that when he was a kid wanted to marry Ken Griffey Jr.'s daughter, take her last name and change their name to Ken Griffey III, maybe you're looking for a guy like me, your boy Coach Red. You can find me on Twitter at The Real Coach Red.
So true.
On Instagram at The Real _Coach Red. On TikTok at The Real Coach Red. Also, hop on over to YouTube, like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, leave a comment or two. And that is a true story. I did think that growing up.
He really did.
And if you're looking for a guy that only got to really see Mr. Griffey in a Reds or White Sox jersey, or as he was retiring as a Mariner, maybe you're looking for a young buck like Cain.
Did see him hit a home run in a Mariners jersey, by the way. So that was dope.
I saw him hit a lot.
I'm aware. I'm Cain. You can find me over on Twitter at Cain2406, on YouTube at Cain06, TikTok and Kick Cain0624. We are streaming again, so come check it out. Follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Follow us. Do it, freaking do it.
Well, the Seahawks had a little bit of a stinker. Bit of a stinker.
God.
Crazy thing is they came out firing. Touchdown on the first drive. Next drive, get a field goal. Following drive, get a field goal. That was
250 bangers. Drives. 250 bangers, though.
Yeah. But that was 4 consecutive drives dating back to last week where they put points on the board. And I was very optimistic.
Dad came over because I invited him over. We haven't watched a game together this year, really. So I said, hey, Dad, you come watch this Seahawks-Rams game. Was super stoked. Me and him are cheering. And, dude, as you said, they were firing on all cylinders, basically. It seemed like in that first half, offense was nowhere to be found in the second half. A lot of things did happen that kind of put us in that situation. But
one thing that I've noticed recently, though, you're wearing some Husky gear, and it's been a roller coaster ride in a stressful time the last couple of weeks with a lot of the close games. And besides the real big stinker to the Baltimore Ravens, the Seahawks have been that way all year, where it's just like you can't just sit back and relax and enjoy your favorite team winning a game. It is so nerve-wracking for 3 hours, and I just want it to not happen on Saturday and Sunday. I'll take one.
Right.
But now we've got Saturday and Thursday this week.
Yeah. Man. It just, penalties killed. Really did.
We're jumping into that right off the rip. Okay.
Like, it did. You know, the so many holding calls. So many holding calls.
I saw a stat where
150.
it was a key third down, and the Seahawks got penalized for illegal hands to the face away from the ball. It
Yep.
was like the sixth time the Seahawks have been called this year for it, and the next closest team has two called against them.
I mean, Reek did put his hands on in his face. I mean, shouldn't freaking do it.
Shouldn't freaking do it. But
I almost did it. I almost did it.
But the one that I think stands out the most is you're in the fourth quarter. Puka Nakua is working his way across the back line, gets his feet tangled up with the linebacker. Spoon's in perfect position on him, just kind of has hand on hip, not really affecting him. Puka goes down, gets flagged, and that drive ends up in a touchdown where it would have ended in a field goal. And that's a 4-point swing. And in a 1-point game, that's a big gaffe when it comes to the officials on the field, where I've heard some people say, it was down, it was a home field advantage, but this week more than most kind of felt that in a lot of key moments the Seahawks were getting targeted for these penalties, and it was just bananas because for the most part this season the Huskies have been, or not the Huskies, the Seahawks have been pretty clean on the penalty sheet comparative to the rest of the league. I mean, they were averaging, I think, 8 penalties a game for about 75 yards, and they had that, halfway through the second, I believe. So
I know I saw a stat at one point where they had over 150 yards in penalties called against them.
it was a rough day, especially when the defense, for the most part, played pretty darn well
Yeah.
through the totality of the game. Another strong outing, and look at the defense. Quandre Diggs, even though he bounced off a couple of guys, it didn't secure the tackles, still ended the day with 13 total tackles and 8 solos. Bobby clocking in with 10 tackles and 6 solos, and Spoon clocking in with 8. So there wasn't a whole lot of yak going on in this game either. And
No.
the running game was fairly well bottled up. So you did the things that you want to do, except for pressure Matt Stafford a little bit more. Boye Mafe's streak ends at 7, does not get a
That was
sack in this
unfortunate.
game.
He came
But
close so many times. He came close.
oh, very close. But and then the Rams tried to get a little tricky, and Matthew Stafford, you've been reeked.
Welcome to the club.
You've been reeked.
You have. Oh, that was fantastic. And big shout out to Mario Edwards for laying that hit on him, too. Big shouts for that.
So for the defense, it was pretty solid. And then, I mean, the tail of the Seahawks game really starts in the third quarter. Geno Smith takes a big hit from Aaron Donald. Some people, like Cain, think it should have been a penalty. I'm not under that same mindset, but he is. Explain
Hey man,
yourself.
hey man. They've stated it multiple times. Anything above the shoulders, it's the flag or the ejection, as we saw, the week prior. They're taking it serious. I mean, look
But
at
that was on
Kareem
a
Jackson.
defenseless guy. He's going up with his hands to
I
knock the
mean,
ball down, and then he finishes the tackle through the shoulders and down. It's not like he was launching himself up to the head or neck area.
I don't know. It just rubbed me wrong. It totally changed the tide of the game.
Because Geno Smith goes out after that play and does not come back on the field until the final drive. And Drew Lock had some magic earlier this year against the Lions, led a touchdown drive.
Giants.
Or the Giants? Yeah, it was the Giants. I thought the Lions because that was such a back and forth game.
That was the game I watched, and I was so prepared.
Yep. So Drew Lock leads that, but Drew Lock goes 2 for 6 for 3 yards and a pick in this game. And you got Kenneth Walker going down early with an oblique injury, bigger task on Charbonnet, and to DJ Dallas, and DJ really didn't get many carries at all in the game. So it was a lot on Zach, and
One
we were
for
asking for
four.
a little bit more, but after his initial burst on that first drive with him and Kenneth Walker, it really mellowed out, and the Rams really put a lock on containing him,
Mhm.
which led to the three-headed monster popping up again. You had DK Metcalf, 5 catches for 94 yards. Tyler Lockett clocks in with 5 catches for 51, and JSN 3 catches for 40. This is kind of the spread that we're liking to see out of this team.
Yeah. Um, it's great to see those guys all go off. Since the Seahawks drafted JSN, it hasn't been the prettiest at the start, but I think he's finally finding some stride, getting open a little bit better, popping off his release. But I think if we can really get these guys to the where they're all at 5 around there, I think that's going to be truly scary.
You're only 2 away. 2 catches
Right.
from JSN away. And like some of the, like, I know that Matt Ryan, first year broadcaster, I think Tiki Barber was also on the call. It's
Yes.
like early on the first drive, JSN, almost toe taps on a ball that's going out of bounds with the defender right on him. And, there really wasn't a lot of room to get that second foot down. And Matt Ryan, big rookie mistake there. He's got to get the second foot in. It's like both feet were almost on the white and he was fully extended to get the
And
thing.
it's a
Like,
dart.
I mean, I think he did everything he could for how close it was. I was actually pretty impressed with it. It's early enough in the
Maybe
game.
maybe an inch or two on the reach, or maybe
Because
another 2 inches taller. He makes
yeah,
the
and if that's
catch.
a catch, then there you go. That's 4. We're only one away
But
from your 5, 5, and 5.
man, he makes some pretty incredible catches. He really
Yeah, and
does.
then to really finish summing up the game, the Rams score in the second quarter. They get 10 points in the fourth, and
Yeah.
probably should have been 6 with that penalty that was called against Spoon that should not have been
Two
called.
There
Gino
was
comes
two
back in.
PIs
Gino
called
comes
on him,
back
dude.
in after having his elbow wrapped up for the better course of a quarter, and comes in and first throw, dart. Second throw, terrible, but puts him in a position to go win the game. There's a lot of hubbub out there with all the keyboard warriors out on Twitter talking about them running the ball late instead of spiking it and having a little extra time to get a play call in. Apparently, Gino's headset in the helmet went out, but the play that they were going to call was an RPO. And in that instance, they still had enough time to get down, spike the ball, and give, reigning special teams player of the week, Jason Myers, a shot. And 54-yard, kind of right there at what I would say is about his max. And he pushed it a little bit to the right, but for what Gino did to get you in that position and to be right there with the chance to win, I think with how the second half played out, you couldn't have really asked for much more. It's a very frustrating loss because you feel like the Seahawks are a superior team in overall talent and by record. And for some reason,
They
the
can't beat the
curse
Rams.
continues because here's a little thing that I want to point out because it also ties in to our preview of the Niners game that's coming up on Thanksgiving. But Pete Carroll is 5-10 against Sean McVay.
That's so crazy.
But Pete Carroll is 8-5 against Kyle Shanahan. And Kyle Shanahan is 10-4 against McVay. So it's like Pete Carroll beats Shanahan, who beats McVay, who beats Pete Carroll. It's just a cycle.
Yeah, I don't know, man. We can never beat the Rams
They're always a tough
ever.
out, even when they're very poor.
Yeah, even when they're Sam Bradford years, they were still
Dude,
bring it.
don't besmirch clipboard Jesus like that. My first Seahawks game was it was a winner into the playoffs. Sam Bradford's rookie year. Matt Hasselbeck is hurt, and clipboard Jesus, Charlie Whitehurst takes him down on the first drive, scores a touchdown. I think the end score of that game was 13-7, and the offense did dilly squat the rest of the day. But guess what? They won the game and they made the playoffs. And then the Beastquake came against the Saints. So don't you ever besmirch the name of clipboard Jesus around me ever again.
I didn't say anything about
Charlie. You said that even in the Sam Bradford years, they couldn't win. Well, clipboard Jesus did.
All right. Man, you totally.
I thought you were going to get hot this episode. Well, look at where we're at now.
I completely lost my train of thought.
Perfect. Let's go on to the next thing. So we do have a Thanksgiving matchup coming up against the San Francisco 49ers. But before we get into the breakdown of that, we found some Thanksgiving staples and, different foods that we enjoy or don't enjoy, and wanted to kind of compare them to a member of the Seattle Seahawks. And you know what? The reasonings are going to be vastly different. So I know who Kane's guys are for what, but I don't know why, and he has no clue. So these reactions are going to be just off the cuff. So we're going to start off with the turkey. Kane, who is the Thanksgiving turkey of this Seahawks team for you?
Thanksgiving turkey. I am gonna say Geno Smith is the Thanksgiving turkey. Solely because how many slices do you normally get out of a turkey, right? Get about especially one of the big ones. You get about maybe 10 slices out of it, plus the legs and all. There's always so many things to go around, and it's just like Geno, always dishing the rock around.
I had no clue where you were going with that. It was confusing AF.
That's fair. Coach Red, who do you have for turkey?
I also have Geno Smith, but for a completely different reason. The turkey's the talk of the town, and that's going to be your starting quarterback. And trust me, when you're sitting down with your family and it's a great turkey, everyone's talking about it. And if it is a bad turkey, people are also talking about it. And that's the scrutiny that Geno's been this whole year. He has a great game. Everyone loves him. He has a bad game. People are clamoring for Drew Lock to get some run. So with Geno, he's the face of this team right now. He's very clippable. He's got the sayings, but he's had those up and down games, and he really showed you what he means to this team when he got banged up and then comes back in and puts you in a position to win this last week. But he's also, had a little bit of turnovers, but with this,
again, didn't turn
talk
the ball
about
over.
The turkey. You talk about the turkey, and you talk about your starting quarterback. So it's Geno Smith for me.
All right. That's a great explanation.
Thank you.
Way better than mine.
I'm aware. Well, next we're going to go to the mashed potatoes. Kane, who's your mashed potatoes?
I love me some mashed potatoes. This is my favorite, my second favorite on the plate. But I think mashed potatoes are Tyler Lockett because he's just good old reliable. Year in, year out, the dude is reliable. Throwing the ball all the time, he gets open. I mean, he's been the guy for so many years. They do have DK, all that. That's great. But Tyler Lockett has been the guy. Not to mention, we did actually forget to mention this. He is now second in all-time receiving yards.
Big ups.
Yeah.
Big ups.
And catches.
Tyler Lockett.
And catches. He will not catch Steve Largent. But hey, he's number 2 of the new era Seahawks. But yeah, he is my old reliable, never go wrong mashed potatoes. Coach Red, who you got?
So for me, mashed potatoes, you can't really screw them up. And this is a guy that I think doesn't screw up and is a staple. It's, synonymous with Thanksgiving. It's turkey and mashed potatoes. And I can't think of the Seahawks without thinking of Bobby Wagner. Just like you were saying with Tyler Lockett, very reliable, but as a staple. And he's never bad. Even in his years where he's less productive, he's still a highly productive linebacker. It's just a little bit a step back from what we've seen as all pro levels. This guy, him coming back, was like last year we had no mashed potatoes. It was a drought in Ireland, but now they are back.
uh Dude, thinking about Bobby and how great he's been, um the one thing I miss is the battle between him and Luke Kuechly, year in and year out, to see who would get the most tackles.
Yeah.
Good times.
So that's why it's Bobby Wagner for me, just a staple.
All
So
right.
next thing we've got is the stuffing or dressing, if you will. Kane, who's your stuffing?
My stuffing. Say. This is a good one. Let's start off with you first, Coach Red.
Okay,
Let's get the intellectual one out the way first.
perfect. My stuffing is Tyler Lockett because I'm a big fan of stuffing. But stuffing is a staple in my household, just like Tyler Lockett is a staple for every diehard Seahawks fan. But he only gets talked about once a year on the national circuit, and it's usually saying Tyler Lockett's the most underrated wide receiver in the league. I think that stuffing is an underrated part of the Thanksgiving meal, and I think that Tyler Lockett really sums that up. It's the quietest ascension to greatness that we've ever seen. Like even like us talking about it and seeing the plays that Tyler Lockett comes up with day in, day out, week in, week out, year after year after year. And it's just incredible to look at what those stats lead up to. But he's really only talked about on the national stage once or twice a year. And that's about the amount of times you even go to the store and see stuffing in the aisles is
Right.
Christmas and Thanksgiving. So guess what? Tyler Lockett, I love you. My family loves stuffing. We all love you.
I forgot who I said for stuffing.
Great. We'll go to the next one. Great job, Kane. Way to write this stuff down. Way to be prepared.
Thanks.
Love it. All right. The next
Thanks.
thing we're going to do is gravy. So, Kane, who's the gravy?
Ooh. Gravy is Kenneth Walker. There's just so many good things. So many good things about Kenneth Walker, dude. He is a multiple purpose back. He can run the ball. He can catch the ball. Guess what? Gravy's also. You can throw it on mashed potatoes. You can throw it on the turkey. You can throw it about anything on the plate. Multi-purpose. It's great. But Kenneth Walker has just been such a huge success for this team. He has been nothing but great and rushing for over 1,000 yards, not playing in the first 4 games, really. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And it's the best. It's the best. And so is gravy. Coach Red, who's your gravy?
You would never guess who I'm going to pick.
Probably not.
It is Uncle Will Disley.
I could have maybe thought about it, but
Nope. You did not think that any of these would go down to Uncle Will. The reason I say that is part of that versatility, gravy, its ability. I mean, basically anything on your main plate, if it's not sweet, you could throw gravy on it. And that's the one thing is Will Dissly is so multiple for you and makes you so multiple on offense. He's a powerhouse in the run game, and he's a well above average pass catcher out in the routes. He's a guy that can change the outlook of the game, and I would like to see the Seahawks get all the tight ends a little bit more involved. But when you see these big games, you usually see in the stat line Will Dissly, 5 catches for 40 plus yards, and then you're seeing him just absolutely great in the run game. So, Will Dissly for me, versatile, tasty, smooth, and it's kind of like your uncle. He's going to be at every Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
All right, let's
True.
go to the next one. We've got green bean casserole. Kane, who you slotting in for the green bean casserole?
Bean casserole. You threw me off because the list is different.
Yeah,
in your
well, I
text.
also did it in the order that I wanted to display it in right now. I was just doing it off the rip off my head in the text.
um, green bean casserole is Little Spoon. Dude, I have come to love green bean casserole lately. I don't know what it is, but every time, like I've been craving it. It slaps so hard. Oh, it's so great. Just like
Slaps.
Little Spoon. Boy, does
Slaps so hard.
hey, it's what the kids are saying these days, all
I know
right?
that's it. They're just slapping and clapping out there.
uh, but Little Spoon, dude, like he has been a animal. He has came on the scene. His presence is felt. Uh, this dude matches up against number ones and shuts them down. Like the dude is an absolute banger. He gives me Cam Chancellor vibes. The way he just the way he hits people, man.
He's a playmaker.
He brings dudes down, stops them in their tracks. Like the dude is an absolute beast, and I think that he is the best corner in the draft this year. Like
I don't think anyone would argue that with you.
he's just been so unreal and missed a game. Like, oh my gosh. He is so great, just like green bean casserole. Coach Red, who you got?
See, I have a completely different take on the green bean casserole. Like the first time I had it, I was like, yeah, this is all right. Kind of like it. And I've grown to not like it so much anymore. And that player for me is Darrell Taylor. Darrell Taylor is a guy that early on in his career, started off injured, wasn't even at the table for me. Then he has some pretty productive uh, back-to-back seasons. He starts off, I think he had like 4 or 5 games in a row where he at least got a half a sack, and then he got absolutely hammered by the Pittsburgh offensive lineman that like jolted his head completely back when he got rolled up and then was out. Then last year it comes back and really comes on a tear at the end of the season. But with Chinny Nwosu being out, you expect a guy who's going into his contract year to really take that step forward and expand upon the pressures that he's created, the sack numbers that he's put up, and really become, a big time weapon for this pass rush. And we just haven't seen it as much anymore. Boye Mafe's kind of taking that step up. You're getting a little bit of stuff from the interior. But for me, Darrell Taylor, I don't need this at my Thanksgiving anymore. And I think the Seahawks are going to agree. And Darrell Taylor's probably not going to be on this team next year after his contract expires.
I do not think so either.
He was your underrated guy last week. Underrated. Well, he hasn't done much this year, but I think he's still underrated.
No.
Look,
I think he did something this
how a
week
week
too.
changes your mind.
I think he did something this week too.
Yeah, he
So,
was on the field. He played a football game.
all right.
Wasn't super impactful. All right, next we're gonna go to the pumpkin pie, the little dessert at the end of the meal here. Kane, what do you got?
You know, it is often said that pumpkin pie is the greatest pie. Uh, I am not a fan, but going, for the national vibe, it seems to be everybody's unanimous favorite, just like DK Metcalf. Oh man,
Everyone's unanimous favorite. I saw the keyboard
hey,
warriors asking him to be traded after he got another penalty, and that we don't need DK. You got Bobo after the game he sat out. Like unanimous.
you know what? He's unanimous in my heart. All right, in my household, we do actually have fun. My wife loves it, and so does our father. So it's always there. But DK Metcalf, man, what's not to say about the guy? Like, yeah, he's hot headed, but is a nightmare for defensive backs.
And he owns the Rams.
He sure
The
does.
Rams.
So I've been watching a lot of like Madden franchise stuff, and one of the YouTubes I watched rebuild the Seahawks. And the way he was talking about DK Metcalf, and it's just like he is such a freak athlete. The way like you can play him over the top, he's gonna beat you underneath. You try to undercut him, he's going over you to make the catch. The dude can stop on a dime and hit max speed. Like the dude is an absolute physical specimen out there. And week in and week out, like, yeah, sometimes he doesn't get the ball. It's frustrating.
Sometimes he burned the pumpkin pie.
That's true. Sometimes you do. But when DK Metcalf is leading the team in yards, it's beautiful. I mean, the dude always finds ways to get open. Those in routes against the Commanders. He busted his tail to outpace the DB and get them in wonderful field position. Like, I love DK Metcalf, man. He is, I have his jersey. It's great. I don't know. There's just so many things to say about him. And I don't know. I'm just at a loss for words because he's just amazing. I don't know. I'm
So many
sorry.
things to say. I'm at a loss of words.
Yeah. Coach
Yeah.
Red, who's your pumpkin pie?
Pumpkin pie for me is you have the Thanksgiving meal. This is the dessert. You're full. You don't feel like you need any more. And that's how I felt about the Seahawks secondary. You got Reek Woolen, you got Quandre Diggs, you got Jamal Adams coming back, you signed Julian Love, you got Mike Jackson who's playing well. But it's that one thing you didn't know you need, but it just finishes your day off right. And that is Devin Witherspoon. You insert him into a defensive backfield that played pretty well last year. Turnovers galore with Reek, with Quandre, and you sit there, you bring in a guy like Julian Love. You got Kobe Bryant still on this team, and you just put that last little bit. This is the part where it's like before you sink into the couch and take a nap. That's what Spoon is. He's the last little thing that you needed, and you didn't know you needed it until you had it. You wanted it. You thought, no, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should go get Jalen Carter. But no, you needed Spoon, and Spoon is the guy for this team, and
I
you
love
loved
it.
it.
Love it.
All right, the last thing we have is canned cranberries. Kane,
Ugh.
tell us how you
Not
really
allowed.
feel.
Not allowed in my house. Just like Drew Lock should not be allowed on the Seahawks. Like I know he's turnover heavy. But God, man, he just does not make good reads. I am so over him. So over him. I got a little story. So dad was over and he's like, I don't know why they don't put Drew Lock in. I think he's better than Gino. And then he threw the pick. He's like, yeah, I'm going home. But Drew Lock is bad. Canned cranberries are bad, disgusting, not allowed. I just
I
so
don't think
frustrating.
that Drew Locks is bad. I still think that he is an average to an above average backup quarterback in this league. But that's kind of the thing you see, even with Gino. Sometimes you get the bad, but sometimes you get the real good. And it's tough because we've seen both sides of it with Drew Lock. So
Yeah.
it is what
Coach
it
Red,
is.
who's your canned cranberries?
For me, like canned cranberries, there's people that love it and there's people that hate it. It's kind of has a cult following, and you know who has a cult following on this team? Jake Bobo. He
Yep.
is the canned cranberries. He is just that cult hero classic that, not every a lot of people that do it, that you see that and just jellies out. You're like, ugh. And most people are like, well, don't knock it until you try it. Well, don't knock Jake Bobo until you try it, because Jake Bobo is an electric factory for this team. And you
Great
know,
to pass block.
I'm not the biggest cranberry guy, but I'm a pretty big Jake Bobo guy.
He's great. He's great in the run block. That's what I meant to say.
He's
Great
phenomenal
in
in the
the
run
run
block.
block.
All right. Since we've talked enough about Thanksgiving, why don't we go to the Thanksgiving
Yeah.
Day game, the late night game versus the 49ers. This is a team where I pointed out earlier, Pete is 8-5 against Kyle Shanahan in his career. But before last year, Pete Carroll was 8-2 against Kyle Shanahan, and the 49ers went 3-0 against the Seahawks. You have a 49ers team coming off two pretty impressive wins after a 3-game losing streak. The Seahawks are riding little ups and downs. Um, what do you expect to see in this game?
Well, it's gonna be tough. I mean, I didn't know it was the 5 o'clock game. I thought I saw it at the 1 o'clock game, and
That's
then
Cowboys time slot.
so I will be watching it on my phone on the way home from dinner, an hour away. So, yay for me. Hopefully, I'll get to see the whole first half and be home for the second half. But it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be really tough. As you said, they came off two pretty impressive wins. Purdy looked pretty fantastic last week. Um, Defense doing their thing. George Kittle doing his thing. And big thing though, they did lose their safety for the rest of the year. So it kind of helps out the Seahawks favor right there. Never wish for somebody to be hurt, but hey, what can you do? I expect this to be a full-blown showdown. Um Last time that the Hawks and 49ers played on Thanksgiving was electric. It was a very, very long time ago. And Richard Sherman owned that game. So you're going to see a very hard fought battle. You got to see the O line kind of really hunker down this game with the addition of Chase Young. You're getting a healthy Chase Young and a healthy Nick Bosa. It's going to be very hard to stop. Their DTs are good too. So that O line's got to really hunker down for Gino. We are down Kenneth Walker more than likely this
Well, and that's
week.
what I would talk about is kind of injuries for the Seahawks. Like, you're coming to this game from what I'm gleaning, Kenneth Walker is going to be a no-go. We're going to see Kenny McIntosh for the first time this year. Is Abe Lucas going to be back this week? Is Jamal
You hope
Adams
so.
going to be back this week? Is Geno Smith going to be able to play a full game? These are all question marks coming into the game. And then you also lose your top special teams player in Jarek Reed III. So, there are some things that you're playing with, but what I do think for the Hawks is if you do get Abe Lucas back, you get your preferred starting line going. And I think this is a real telltale thing. I saw some things out there. Your guard play hasn't been great this year. With this line, if they can hold their own and you got your full complement and it still is a little shaky, I've seen some projections out there to bring in Timmy into center and move Evan Brown out to one of the guard spots, mix it up a little bit there. But
Mhm.
what I do think the Seahawks need to do to stay relevant, not just in this game, but in the next four, where you go Niners, Cowboys, Niners, Eagles, is you have to win the turnover battle. And I think that's going to be the key for the Seahawks the rest of this year and making that push to make the playoffs and potentially make a run is you can see the playmakers they have on defense. You have Bobby Wagner, who's still tackling everybody that comes in his way. You got Jordan Brooks, who's having another great year. You have guys in your secondary with Love, Quandre, Reek, Spoon, Mike Jackson. All those guys can take
Trey
the ball
Brown.
away. So, yeah, did I say? Oh, and Trey Brown. Like everyone, you got a full complement of guys that can go down and lock down, and you could get that pressure. You're starting to see it a little bit more with Jaron Reed, and you throw in Leonard Williams. Draymond Jones has been a little bit quiet, but then you see the emergence of Boye Mafe. Frank Clark needs to really take the reins again, and Darrell Taylor. If they can start doing those things and create negative, impactful plays on the defensive side, that's going to juice your offense, going to put you in better field position. And those sudden changes typically when momentum shifts, and when you got Uncle Mo on your side, you're usually pretty good. So I think that's going to be a key, not only in this game, because you need to fluster Purdy when he's rattled. He's a mediocre guy, but when he can stay in rhythm and hit these guys that are big yak guys, that's been the guys for the Niners that have hurt, and they're loaded with them. You look at Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield, big yak guy. Kittle against the Seahawks, big yak guy. Debo against the Seahawks, big yak guy. Brandon Ayuk. All these guys funnel into where the Seahawks typically struggle. So I'm looking to see a little bit more tighter pressure, playing a little bit more in the box, and taking those chances to make Brock Purdy beat you over the top and hopefully take one or two of those away.
Big thing, big two things that I think are good here. Well, one, they are at home for this game. That's the big one. Get that crowd into it. It's gonna make the place shake. It's what the Seahawks thrive in. One thing I do want to see is Shane Waldron, cook up something special, honestly. Like
it's Thanksgiving, might as well.
Let's
start early.
Let's, call plays pretty, well for 4 quarters and not 2. That'd be great. Great to see.
Here's something that I brought up today that just kind of laments. Like, there's times when they're moving the ball, I feel pretty good, but there's times where the Seahawks offense goes stagnant for multiple drives in a row.
Yep.
I believe this one was in the second quarter. They're down on the 6. I believe it's first down, and they run motion Charbonnet to the other side, and they do a little pitch and try to get to the corner. I don't know if you know about Charbonnet, but put that guy between the tackles. He wants to go hit someone. Like, granted, he's got the speed to get outside, but I'd much rather trust the block. I don't know, 5 big hog mollies plus a tight end coming straight down your throat and expecting to get 3 yards of carry, which he got in this game 2 times in a row to punch this ball in, instead of getting cute around. You get cute between the 20s.
Yeah.
Like, what does Pete Carroll love to do? Run the damn ball. So run the ball forward with force. That's the type of guy Sharps is. You saw it against the Commanders the week before. He ran 2 times behind the center and he got 10 yards a clip. This guy is a downhill runner. Use him to the best of his ability. DJ Dallas on the perimeter, I like that play a lot more. Kenneth Walker, love him out in space. Kenny McIntosh, that's his. He's elusive pass catcher. Get him on the edge, see what he can do. Charbonnet is get downhill. So get downhill with him in these types of situations.
Yes. I just need him to call good plays for 4 quarters, and the Seahawks have a really good chance at winning this game.
I would say that they probably don't have the best chance to win this game with injuries that they're coming in with.
You do it the best you can,
We've pointed out, I mean, you look at this, the NFL's a weird league this year. So the Eagles look almost untouchable after their win on Monday night. But you know who they lost to? The Zach Wilson-led Jets.
Yeah.
So, anything can happen. And Commanders playing a little up and down, get the break speed off him by Tommy DeVito, who's eating cold cuts at his mommy's after the game. And, it's their third string quarterback on a bad team. And they absolutely shut out against the Commanders. So you don't know what you're going to get week in, week out. The 49ers were dealing with some injuries. They lost 3 games in a row. Purdy didn't look like himself. It's going to be really interesting to see, especially with this being a holiday game. The Seahawks are at home. It's going to be the capper to Thanksgiving Day that I think we here in the Pacific Northwest really want to see.
It's
Even
gonna
though
be
we might not want to see it.
It's gonna be a bloodbath. It's gonna be chirpy.
Hell, if you want to hear chirpy, you need to hop on over to social media and give us a little follow. And maybe follow a guy like me, your boy Coach Red. You can find me on Twitter at the Real Coach Red, on Instagram at the Real_Coach Red, also TikTok at the Real Coach Red. After that, hop on over to YouTube, like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, leave a comment or 2. Kane, where you at?
You can find me on Twitter at Kane2406, on YouTube at Kane06, and TikTok and Kane0624. Follow the show's accounts over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Falls. Do it, freaking do it.
And as always, stay fresh.
Stay fresh, peeps.
Peace.